Hey, thanks for joining me today. I want to talk to you about some common scams that are targeting Social Security recipients, as well as a brand new one that was recently announced by the Social Security Administration. I want to make sure that you guys are aware of this because, as you already know, Social Security recipients are targeted every single day by these scammers. They are extremely aggressive. And in this video, like I said, we're going to talk about those scams, and we've also got a freebie for you a little bit later. I don't know if you're aware of just how serious this problem is, though. Seniors over the age of 60 have lost a combined $3.4 billion to financial scams in the year 2023 alone. That's 1 year that they took more than $3 billion from people who honestly need it the most. Now, why do they do this? It's because they assume that seniors are sitting on large retirement nest eggs, right? But it's not just the wealthy that they prey on. In a lot of cases, low income seniors also get swept up in these scams. Um, in some cases, it's really horrifying, but they don't even really need to get you to pay them money. There's ways that, they can steal your identity. They can falsely bill your Medicare benefits. There's all sorts of ways that these scams work, and it's just gross. Um, and to make matters worse, of course, a lot of people are hesitant to report them. They don't know how to report them or where to report them or, how to follow up on that. And even if they do get reported, in a lot of cases, it's almost impossible for law enforcement to do anything about it. So, unfortunately, as disgusting as it is, scammers have pretty much figured out that scamming seniors is a low risk activity. And that just feels nasty to say because it should not be this way. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that they can do to stop this because every time they find a way to shut something down, more scammers pop up in their place. So, today I want to give you the information that you need to protect yourself, right? To know what to look for so that you don't get taken advantage of in these ways by these scammers. So let's dive in and just get right into our list of what you need to look out for. So I want to start with fake government calls. And I feel like that's something that gets talked about a lot, but clearly not enough because the Social Security Administration just reported another new phone call scam that started at the end of July. And this one is really sneaky. They've actually got 4 different ways they're going about this, and they're combining scam calls from the Social Security Administration, the Office of the Inspector General, the Department of Justice, the Office for Victims of Crime. There's like a whole system they're using here. And I want to show you this because the more I dug into this, the more disgusting it got, honestly. So, first of all, Social Security Administration is, of course, warning people stay skeptical and think scam anytime you get an unexpected or unsolicited call, message, or letter. That is a direct quote from the release that the Social Security Administration made about this scam. They're also, of course, saying that neither SSA nor OVC will ever demand money from you or threaten you with legal or criminal action if you do not pay, and things like that. So, sorry, guys, I'm a little frazzled today. I actually want to skip this and get into the way that this specific one is working. Oh no, is that slide not showing up? Of course it's not. Oh my goodness. Okay, something went wrong in my slides here. So basically what's happening is they've got this system down where they call and they scam you, and then they turn around and then say from the Office of Crime Victims that, oh, you've been scammed, we need to help you. And then they re-scam you, which is crazy. Let me pull up this slide on here because somehow it got removed from my deck, the 4 ways that they were doing this. Okay, that's bizarre. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Okay. I can't find it, but I'll just recap it because I remember. So basically, like I said, they're going to call you and they're going to say, oh, well, you need to come meet this official from the Social Security Administration so we can hand off cash or get cash from you in person. Hopefully you've been following this channel long enough to know that, first of all, the government's not going to take cash from you. They're going to want a more traceable payment method, and you should never pay someone like this in cash because you're going to want some sort of proof that that payment was made, which is exactly what the scammers don't want you to have. Um, but yeah, so they do this, and then they get you to hopefully, pay them in some way, and then the OVC comes in and says, "Oh well, oh my gosh, guys, I can't believe I'm live right now. I am really butchering this. I'm gonna have to figure out how to convey this later. Not having that slide in front of me is really, really messing me up right now. So let me try to explain that again in a different way. So, yes, so they're coming in, they're telling you you need to meet up with them, give them money. And then if they successfully scam you, they re-scam you by coming in and saying, "Oh, well, we're from this other agency that's supposed to help you if you've been scammed." And then they scam you again. I can't believe those slides ended up missing. I have no idea what happened there because I just put this deck together. Yeah, so anyway, 4-step playbook. The Social Security Administration is warning most scams follow these same 4 basic steps, right? They're going to pretend to be from an agency you trust. And like I showed you a few minutes ago, they're using Department of Justice, Social Security, all of these different things. They say that there is a problem that needs to be fixed. There's that pressure to act immediately. And then they tell you that you have to pay in a very specific way, whether that's going to be cash or Zelle or crypto. They love crypto. Never, never, never pay someone who calls you in crypto. Those are the red flags that you need to watch for there. The Social Security Administration did put out this press release saying that they will never threaten you with arrest or legal action because you don't agree to pay money immediately. That is number one, a favorite tool of all scammers everywhere, to use that kind of urgent threat. They're not going to call you and say that they're going to suspend your Social Security number. That's something that scammers also say often. Don't believe that if that happens. A lot of them will say that I'm sorry, guys, I am having the hardest time today. They'll say that you need to pay or something to activate a cost of living adjustment. That is so not how that works. Those cost of living adjustments are automatically applied at the end of the year. They're usually announced in October and activated in January. That is not a thing that you're required to do anything to get. But scammers like to try to leverage that because they're just trying to get your benefits however they possibly can, right? Scammers will also try to pressure you to take immediate action. They don't ever want you to have time to think, because if you have time to think, then you're not going to fall for it. So if someone calls you, I don't care if they call you saying they're from the USDA and it's about your EBT benefits, or if they call and say they're from your bank, it really doesn't matter what organization they're claiming to be from. If they're telling you that you have to take action immediately and you get the sense that they're not giving you breathing room, more often than not, that's going to be a scam, right? And like we said earlier, any unusual payment methods, if they don't want your debit card or like a standard payment method, but they're trying to get you to pay in something untraceable like gift cards, prepaid debit cards, wire transfers, cryptocurrency, mailing cash, they're asking for that because they don't want to be able to be found later. So that is a very big hallmark of a scam as well. Social Security also said, this is a direct quote from their release, that they will never threaten to seize your bank account. They especially are not going to offer to move your money into a protected bank account, demand secrecy, or direct message you on social media. Those are all things that we're seeing scammers do as they are impersonating the Social Security Administration. Wow, I am really disappointed in the fact that I wasn't able to convey that information as clearly as I wanted to because those slides were missing. I really apologize for that, guys. If you have any questions about that specific scam, feel free to hop in the chat and I'll try to explain that better, and I'll try to find that information here in a minute. But I feel like I already lost too much time with that, so I'm going to try to move on. So the second scam I want to talk to you about is Medicare scams. This blew my mind because I only learned about this about a year, maybe 2 ago. Of course, we know that 67 million Americans are enrolled in Medicare, and that but you may not have known that Medicare and Medicaid lost over $100 billion to improper payments in 2023 alone. So, earlier I said that seniors had been bilked out of like $3 billion in a single year, and that is a lot of money. But Medicare and Medicaid have lost $100 billion in a single year. So obviously for a scammer, those Medicare ones are really compelling. Oh my goodness, Kenneth, thank you so much. I so appreciate that. I feel like this video has been a little bit rough, so thank you for that support. But um, here's the thing I need you to understand about Medicare scams that I feel like most people miss. They don't need to get you to pay to be able to fraudulently bill your Medicare benefits. And that's where a lot of that money comes in, right? So they're going to ask you for your PII. That's your personally identifiable information because they want to get your Medicare information. They want to get your social security number. They want to get the data that they're going to need to be able to submit an improper claim on your behalf because then they're hoping, of course, that the government is going to pay out on your behalf for that. And this is huge and problematic because in a lot of cases, it'll result in you ending up to paying for a portion of things that you didn't need as well. So Medicare scams, very big deal to watch for. If they reach out to you and it's a scam, you might hear things like, oh, well, you need a new card and we're going to need this information so we can order that new card for you. Nuh-uh, that's not how that works. For example, in the Medicare breach that we saw a little while back, the Social Security Administration just was like, or I guess it was Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, whichever one, but they sent out those letters and they're like, hey, your data was included in a breach. We're sending you a new card. Expect your card in 2 weeks. Your card showed up. You didn't have to do anything to get that. So be very wary of anyone who comes in and is trying to glean that information from you. Sometimes they'll say that your benefits are being canceled, but there's very few issues that would actually lead to a cancellation like that. And if it was, you can usually, I mean, say you can safely hang up on that scammer and call, 1-800-Medicare and talk to them. And then you know who you're talking to, and you're not just at risk of giving your information to anybody who calls you. A lot of times you'll hear, oh, well, you're eligible for better or cheaper coverage, or you're eligible for a rebate or a refund. We want to send you money, but first we need all the information that we need to take that money from you. Don't ever fall for those. They're so nasty. Sometimes they'll offer you free or discounted medical tests, equipment, items, whatever it's going to take for them to give it to you in order to get that information from you. Be especially wary of anything that comes door-to-door sales. To my understanding, it's illegal to do that with Medicare. And then, of course, one of the shadiest ways that these Medicare scams work is they don't even have to reach out to you. They just file fraudulent claims on your behalf and then count on you not looking at your benefits statements explaining what you've been billed for. So make sure you're always looking at those statements that you get to know what is going on there. Panelist says, Walgreens online appointments for lab works asked for my social security number and my Medicaid number just to make an appointment. And that's the hard thing, right? Because sometimes, like if you call a doctor's office, every time I make a doctor's appointment, they want my number, they want my insurance information. So there are legitimate reasons when that information is needed, but that's also a gold mine for scammers. So one of my general rules is if they call me and I didn't call them, I'm not giving them anything. I'll hang up and call them back. Because if they are who they say they are, I should be able to Google that number and then call the right office, right? So if somebody calls me from a doctor saying that they're from a doctor's office and, oh, hey, well, we need your updated insurance information. We need this, that, or the other thing. I'll be like, you know what? I appreciate that. Just a little bit scam sensible here. I'm going to hang up. I will call you right back at the number that I have for your office. And as long as this is all legit, it should just take an extra minute or two for us to get this information to you. And then you can move forward with confidence, knowing that you actually called the right office and it's not just Joe somebody in a call somewhere trying to bilk your information. So it's really, really hard. Okay, Janet's asking how to and where to report the scammers, and I have a whole slide for you on that here in just a minute, assuming, of course, that it didn't somehow magically disappear like my other one did. I still apologize for that. I get really stressed out when I'm live and things don't go the way they're supposed to. Now, of course, with the Medicare scams, I am just going to mention our sponsor chapter, Medicare, here really quick. They'll look at all of the different plans available to you and recommend whatever is in your best interest. And you can see from reviews.io here, 99% of people recommend them. They've got a 5-star rating with over 3,000 reviews. And we actually did have someone in the chat a couple of lives ago who had an issue with their Medicare. And I was able to help them connect with chapter, and I got a big long email about how well that worked out for them. So highly recommend, if you're concerned about Medicare, call Chapter. You can trust those guys. Okay. So just really quickly recapping a couple of other scams that are really hitting seniors and people on Social Security really hard right now. One of them is the grandparent scam. And this one is so gross because as someone who really values the importance of family, it is just disgusting to me that somebody would prey upon families this way. But basically what they do is someone will call and say, "Grandma, do you know who this is?" And then they expect you to say the name or guess the name of your grandchild. And then as soon as they have that name, of course, then they can run with that. So, yeah, that's just gross. But what they do is they essentially call, they get that name from you, they pretend to be in trouble, maybe they've been arrested or hurt or stranded, and they need money right now to get out of that situation. And they really hammer in that urgency because they do not want you to be able to get off the phone and call your grandkid, right? I hear reports of this scam all the time, and it really, if this happens, try to get off that phone, call your grandkid, call your kid, try to connect with someone who can verify that situation. Because in a lot of cases, it is just a scammer. And a lot of times they're going to ask you to pay in weird ways, right? Oh, don't send me money the usual way. Send me a gift card, give me, Venmo, wire transfer, Zelle. And don't I can't imagine how gut-wrenching it would be to get one of those calls, right? As a mom with kids, if one of my kids calls me, my older kids would attest, half the time my phone rings, and if they're not at home, my first words out of my mouth are you okay? Is there a problem? Are you safe? Because there's just that fear, and these scammers are preying on that fear. They want you to worry, they want you to be concerned, and they want you to not think twice before you do something about it. So make sure you give yourself that time to pause and think through that. Yeah, okay, we covered that. So another one is the financial services scam. Of course, people who are claiming to be your bank or maybe a loan or a credit card or whatever account it is, saying, "Oh, well, your account has been frozen or it's hacked, and we need you to verify all that information," right? Because as soon as you verify it, then they have it. In some cases, some people have reported that they say, "Oh, well, your account has been compromised by fraud, and so now we need to move your money into a safe account." And you can bet whatever account scammers are going to use there isn't going to be safe. So please be aware of that. Remember, legitimate banks aren't going to ask you for sensitive information by text. And they usually don't reach out to you over the phone. I know every time I've ever had a fraud alert because I was traveling or there was some purchase that the bank thought was worth flagging, those calls are automated, right? And it's usually a yes, no question. It's not this big, long verification thing. So do be mindful of that. And like I said before, too, if your gut says it's wrong, it probably is, but you can also hang up and call your bank back, right? If you have that number saved in your phone, if you look at the number on the back of your card, you can end that call and start a new one with confidence, knowing that it's the right number. And along with that, of course, you want to make sure that you never give your two-factor authentication codes to anyone over the phone. That's when maybe you're logging into an online system and it's going to text you that code. People call, and if they're trying to get into your account and it triggers that, they're going to ask you to read that code to them over the phone. You should never do that. In addition to that, as a general practice, it's usually a good idea to never click links in a text that claims to be from your bank either, because a lot of places use those link shorteners and you never really know where they're going to go. It's amazing the spoofing ability that scammers have to make their phone numbers look like it's different than it really is, or to make a website, just a couple of letters off, or maybe the punctuation's in the wrong place, or maybe it's a .net instead of a .com, or there's so many ways that they can spoof it and make it look really, really convincing. So just as a general rule, never click those links in your texts because it's just dangerous. Okay. Alrighty. Sorry, I had a phone call there. American Ginger says someone close to me was scammed by one of these degenerates. And yeah, I know plenty of people who have lost out to this stuff, and I hear gut-wrenching stories in our comments and in our emails from people who genuinely thought they were doing the right and responsible thing and had no idea, and it completely upended their lives, which is why we talk about scams so much on this channel, because I never want this to happen to any of you guys, right? It's people are cruel and it's awful, and I would hate to have any of you experience any of these things. So moving on, scam number 5 for us today is those tech support scams. Now, it is ridiculously easy to get a virus on your computer. I obviously make my living online, and I accidentally downloaded a virus a little while ago, and my husband was. I'm still trying to live that down. Um, but basically, if you get a pop-up on your computer saying it's infected, it's compromised, maybe your screen locks, sometimes it'll include a phone number and say, "Oh, call here for technical help." People, and I mean, some of those malicious viruses can cause those pop-ups, and those phone numbers are going to take you to their call center where their scammers are just waiting to help you fix it in a bad way, right? So, just as a general rule, never call a number from a pop-up or from even, I mean, from an email. I like to verify and make sure that I'm calling the right place. Hopefully, you have people in your immediate circle that you can trust to help with tech support. If you don't, I have found that local libraries are an amazing resource for tech support. In a lot of cases, they'll have people on hand who can help you learn how to use your computer better or navigate difficult situations, and they may be able to help you if you find yourself in this kind of a situation as well. Just remember that real companies like Microsoft, Apple, even your like virus detection software, they're not going to freeze your computer and lock it up on you like that. And they're usually not going to call you unprompted either. So just be aware of that. Jeff says, I used to get scammers calling me, trying to get my info, telling me to go on the computer and fix it. And I tell them I do not have a computer. That's a pretty solid way to, yeah, get around that. And then Hedge is saying this is too much for most seniors. And honestly, this right here is what they're going for, right? They want it to be overwhelming. Scammers want to overwhelm you because if you're overwhelmed, then you can't stop it. And I do apologize if this presentation has been confusing or overwhelming in any way. Really, I'm trying to help highlight what you need to watch for because I don't want anyone to take advantage of you. And honestly, if you find yourself in a situation, if you're watching this and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, this is way too much, honestly, that's a red flag in and of itself, right? Like if you are on the phone with somebody and they're pressuring you, and it's overwhelming, that's a good indication that you need to take a step back, pause, and consult with maybe someone else that you trust, whether that's going to be an adult child or even somebody at the library, or you can call the area agency on aging and connect with somebody there or go to a senior center. There's all sorts of people out there who are willing to help people who need it. So even if you think you're alone in this, you're really not. And so if you get that sense of overwhelm, take a step back, take the time to breathe, try to find someone who can help you navigate it. So yeah, that leads us to, of course, the fake help scams as well. And these ones make me so mad because there are so many legitimate financial resources out there that can help low-income seniors on Social Security, so on and so forth. We report all the time on grant programs and charities and organizations that are doing phenomenal things to help people make ends meet, get their needs met and stuff. And sometimes some of the legitimate things that we report on kind of sound too good to be true, right? Like our sponsor was giving away, it was a $4,700 on the first of this month. And a lot of people were like, ooh, that sounds shady, but I vetted that. That was our sponsor that was offering that. Other programs that we've reported on, like hardship grants and things like that, I get a lot of people who are like, I don't trust that. And I totally understand because scammers have kind of ruined that entire thing for a lot of us, right? Because scammers are constantly coming up with crap that's too good to be true. So if it's on low income relief and it's something that I'm telling you about in a video like this, you can count on the fact that I have vetted it and researched it and made sure that it's good for you. If it's something that you see maybe in an ad or online, or someone calls you out of the blue or shows up at your door or sends you a letter, that's when your scammers are really in action, right? So if you get a call, an email, a flyer, whatever that says you've won a sweepstakes or a lottery, but you have to pay first, that is a scam. You should never have to pay money to redeem money. That's a trap. They want you to do it because they want you to be so enticed and so eager for that higher amount that you don't realize how little sense that makes. But you should never pay money to get help. Oh, Hedge Hermit, thank you for saying that you trust if I say it's okay. I appreciate that. I take that trust very seriously. And I try really, really hard to make sure that we're always living up to that. Yeah. So some people, especially scammers, come out in hordes after disasters. Um, really fills me with rage. But when there's a natural disaster, sometimes you'll see fake relief charities offering help, and then they take donations from people because they're gonna go help, but then they never do. Lots of veteran support groups. There's lots of fake ones in that field as well. Charity Navigator is a great place to go if you're thinking about giving money to any sort of charity, just to kind of make sure that they're above board and actually doing what they say that they do. Sometimes you'll see fake home repair contractors show up after a storm, ask for a deposit. They'll offer you a great deal, and then they just disappear with what you paid them. Always make sure you're working with someone who is vetted and locally trusted. I've seen a lot of seniors fall for reverse mortgage scams that essentially cost them their homes, and that's awful. I mean, all of this is awful. Yeah. So you got to be careful when you're looking for help, because there are a lot of scammers out there that try to take advantage. Always do your research first. If it is a real, legitimate, honest to goodness charity that helps with what they're saying that they help with, you're going to find more than one link about it on the internet, right? There's going to be reputable reports in different publications. Odds are we've covered it at Low Income Relief, but there should be news outlets and other PR going on. So if they give you some obscure name of an organization and you go Google it and you can't find anything about it, that's a pretty big red flag that it's not legit. And like I said, you should never pay money to get help either. Okay, so Nightcrawler asked a great question. How do you know if they are vetted? So there's a lot of different organizations that vet different organizations. Charity Navigator comes to mind right off the bat as somebody who's going to rate how effective they are at providing the help that they say that they offer. For low income relief, we have a huge process we go through. We try to read all the fine print, make sure there's no gotchas anywhere in it before we present it to you. So I would consider it vetted if it's something that you have heard me talk about here on low income relief. Now, do be aware that I am choosing my words carefully there, because I don't have a lot of control over the ads that show up before or after or in my videos. So I don't vouch for the companies that are showing up in ads, because I don't know what ads you're seeing. But if it's a sponsor I've mentioned or an organization that I've mentioned in a video and you've seen the words come out of my mouth, then I would consider that vetted. Hopefully that distinction helps. I try really hard to make sure that that's clear, because I don't ever want, to have any confusion on that point. Other forms of vetting, I like to look for really reputable news outlets, right? Has, anything in like NBC, CBS, no matter what your political bent is on the news, there should be some sort of news coverage for a charity or an organization who's claiming that they do something, especially if it's something really cool or really helpful or really substantial in value. Right? If they're saying that they're going to offer you a free home repair grant, then your community action council should know about it. If they're saying that they do free home repair for seniors, then your area agency on aging should know about it too. Now, in some cases, they don't know about everything, but I would start by asking those questions. I would look and see, okay, well, is this person I'm talking to registered as a nonprofit? You can look that up with your state and be like, okay, well, where are they registered? Are they licensed? Are other people, linking to and talking about them? Can I find somebody in my community that they've already helped? Those are ways that you can kind of vet them on your own as well. Reddit is not reliable for a lot of things, but it is a forum where a lot of people talk. So sometimes I'll do a search on Reddit to see if other people are discussing, if it's a relatively new program or something I'm not familiar with, just to kind of get a pulse on, is this like an organization name that somebody just pulled out of a hat this morning to try to take money from me? Or is this something that's actually existed for a while that's actually helpful? So, there's Sorry, I could talk about this for days. You would not believe the amount of scam information that I have encountered running low income relief, because it's just unbelievable how predatory some humans can be toward other presentations. It's crazy out there. So before I move on from this slide, I just want to check the chat really quick and make sure that we got that I'm not missing anything that anybody's saying before we move on. So, oh my goodness. American Ginger says that they fell for a computer scam and the man had remote access. They don't know what information they stole. So she went out and got all new credit cards and changed all the passwords. That's great prevention. I have to tell you. So I obviously do YouTube and content creation, and I make my living on the computer, but I know what to do with a computer when it's working. My husband used to work in tech support, so he knows how to make the computers work and build them and do all those things. And for a while, back when he was still able to work, he did this thing, and I don't know how he did it, but he had control of my computer while he was at work, and he would push a couple of buttons and then flip my screen upside down, and it drove me nuts. Now, obviously, it wasn't like a scammer had my computer, but it was really irritating. And ever since then, I've been so scared of anybody having control of my machine because they can just do whatever they want. Oh, good. Hermit says it wasn't the presentation that was overwhelming. So that's good. I'm glad that I'm not overwhelming you. I always worry because I tend to, I don't know, I feel like I tend to present things not in the most accessible way sometimes. So I appreciate that clarification. Head Sherman also points out, if you have debt, some scammers can learn it on the dark web. They can pretend to be a collection agency. And oh my gosh, the amount of scams I see from predatory debt collection agencies is insane. We have other videos that talk about all of those different scams. I have had fake debt collectors threaten to show up and arrest me, or they say that, oh, well, they've already filed a lawsuit and they're on the way to the house. They do crazy things. So we have another video on debt collection scams. And if you have debt, make sure you go check that out so that you can keep yourself safe too, because it's a crazy world out there. Yeah, okay. So Jim also says PCH scammers saying that you won the lottery. They ask you for all your personal info. Yeah. Anybody who tells you to go get a money pack or do like a wire or anything like that, just be super careful because it's never in your best interest. Yeah, okay. Yeah, remote access is a setting in Windows. Make sure that it's off. That is great advice as well. Okay, so I'm going to move on really quick because we still have one more scam to talk about and then a freebie for you. So, yeah, so relationship scams are also super gross. I've seen this happen to people that I love, so I get really, really mad about this one. Basically, they're preying on people who are lonely and maybe don't have a big enough social circle. And so they reach out often online or through a dating site, sometimes even just chatting with people in online games. Sometimes you'll find these jerks in real life and they just single people out, but they come on really quick. They kind of love bomb you. They check in all the time. They're really, really present. You build a very deep relationship very, very quickly. And then pretty soon they need financial help with rent or bills or medical care. And it's often tied to a crisis situation where you don't have time to think, right? Maybe they are going to be evicted immediately or the landlord's on their doorstep and they really need help now. And, they build that urgency and that distress and they prey on that relationship that they've built with you. And it's really unhealthy. Now, I think a lot of attention is given to those online romance scams because we've seen that happen more and more frequently, and it's always disastrous. But I think there's also something to be said about the in-person relationship scams too. And this can be scammers who show up and pretend like they're your friend or, try to become your caregiver, and then they might take things from you or try to take over your accounts or things like that. In some cases, we see even adult children who abuse powers of attorney or, engage in behavior that's really destructive and manipulative or, trying to gain control of your benefits or what have you. So at any point where you feel like a relationship is becoming unbalanced or you're feeling uncomfortable or you have alarm bells going off in your head, make sure you have somebody to talk to. Impartial third parties. I cannot stress how important that is enough. having someone that you trust that you can talk to. And if you don't feel like you have that in your life, there are all sorts of hotlines and warm lines and friendship lines. I wish I'd put it in my slide deck. What is it? I think it's the Area Agency on Aging has a friendship line that anyone can call. Here, let me grab that number really quick. Hopefully it comes up. Yeah, so it's like a 24-hour hotline that you can call if you're over age 60 or you're a person with disabilities, and they take non-urgent calls. That's what a warm line does. So a hotline is like, I'm in crisis, I need help right now, it's really bad. And a warm line is like, I'm not like in physical danger, but I still need somebody to talk to. It's not as urgent. So that's, in case you were wondering, that's the difference between a hotline and a warm line. But yeah, the friendship line is a great resource. And that number is 1-800-971-0016. And so if you don't feel like you have anyone else you can talk to about the situation, I can call them, call a warm line somewhere, find somebody that you can talk it through with so that you have someone else to kind of anchor you and look at that a little analytically. Yeah. And Kimberly points out they're on Facebook. Oh, yes, they are on Facebook. It drives me crazy because a lot of times you'll see somebody respond to a comment and be like, oh, you're so pretty. Could you please send me a message? Could you accept my friend request? I really think those are almost always scammers, right? They're looking for an in. And in a lot of cases, they'll ask you to reach out to them first because their account can't DM too many people without it getting flagged, or they can't, so they ask you to initiate. So be aware of that and do watch out for that. Like I said, common red flags for relationship scams are going to be they interact with you daily. They're very consistent. They're constantly talking to you. They fall in love very quickly. It gets very intense, very fast, but they never meet you in person unless it's one of the in-person ones. But especially if they're online, they're going to want to keep it online in a lot of cases. No matter whether it's online or in person, a lot of times they'll ask you to keep it a secret because no one else would be able to understand, right? So they start that isolating behavior because scammers don't want you to have other people in your life because other people can be like, hey, that's probably a problem. And they don't, it gets in the way of what they're trying to do. They need money urgently and often. They'll use guilt, pressure, and crisis situations to kind of drive that plot forward a little bit. And as is the case with almost all the scams we've talked about today, they're not going to want you to give them money in any way that can be traced, because then you can open a fraud alert with your credit card. You can, they can track things through bank transactions, things like that. So they're less likely to get caught if they ask you to pay for things in gift cards, crypto, wire transfers, that sort of thing. So always be mindful of those high risk payment methods. And ultimately, like I said, talk to a friend, a senior center, a warm line, and even adult protective services. If your gut tells you that something is off, those resources are there for you. So I feel like at this point I have, oh gracious, been talking for 40 minutes about scams. So let's talk about how to protect yourself from any scam, because honestly, if we were going to outline all of the different scams that are out there, we could probably go on for 12 hours or more outlining all of the little details and nuances and ways that these terrible predators accomplish what they're doing. But no matter what it is, make sure that if you feel rushed, you always pause and don't panic. Those same high pressure sales tactics that salesmen use to get you to make an impulsive decision that is against your best interests are the same thing that scammers are trying to do. They want you scared. They want you rushed. They don't want you to take time to breathe. So the best thing you can do for yourself is take up that space. Don't make rushed decisions. Don't let them create that like fight or flight adrenaline rush mode in you. Always give yourself time. So another thing is never give your information to someone who contacts you first. If they reach out to you, even if you think it's legitimate, you can hang up and like call your real doctor's office, call, the Social Security Administration hotline, call the Medicare hotline that is real, and talk to someone that way. Because if someone reaches out to you, you never really know who they are. They can spoof phone numbers now, which is so annoying. But your phone might even think it's legit, and then it might not be. So just be careful. And then, of course, some of these things I've said repeatedly, so I'm not going to keep browbeating you with it. I don't mean to be redundant. I just really want to drive some of those points home because I never, ever want any of you to get taken advantage of this way. So, usual common warning signs and red flags, unexpected calls or messages, contact through unusual means. I would never expect the Social Security Administration to send you a Facebook message. That's crazy, right? More often than not, they're going to send you an official letter. They're not going to even text you or call you. So be very wary, especially of social media messages, but also email, text, that sort of thing. Those are not conventional outreach methods for any of the government organizations, or even most legit charities are not going to reach out to you that way. Always watch for high pressure language like act now, you're going to lose your benefits, it's going to be canceled, you're going to be arrested. These are things that are designed to make you afraid and scared and bypass that voice in your head that says, hey, I need a minute to think about this, right? So if they start using language like that, that should be a big red flag that, I need to get off of this call. I need to stop this conversation. I need to take a minute and breathe and think through this. And then, of course, any requests for secrecy are big red flags too. If they're like, oh, well, don't tell anybody. This needs to stay confidential. This is just between us. That's isolationist behavior. They don't want you to get a second opinion. Why not? If the Social Security Administration legit has a problem, they're not going to tell you not to talk to other people about it. That'd be weird, right? So ultimately, if someone is rushing you, threatening you, demanding secrecy, isolating you, these are red flags. Yes. Okay. I'm going to highlight this right here. Hedge Hermit, you are on point today. I'm loving all of your comments. Thank you. Be careful telling people that you're on Social Security because it absolutely does make you a target. Right? This is one of the things I tell my kids all the time because, like I said before, I have 5 children. You don't give people information online. You don't tell strangers a lot of information about what's going on with you because the more information you put out there is the more information that can be used against you. And just like we saw in that slide about the grandparent scam, when they call and they're like, hey, grandma, do you know who this is? They want you to give them information first because any information they can get you to give them, they can then use and it becomes a trust signal. So be very mindful of that. It's hard because we all want friends. We all want connection, right? We shouldn't live in a world. We shouldn't have to be afraid of what other people are going to do. But other people, some of them are not great. And that's makes it hard to live in this world sometimes, right? So like I said, just as a reminder, in case you didn't catch it before, caller ID can absolutely be spoofed. They can trick your phone into having it ring and say that it's from whatever they feel like. This is something that happens to me a lot as a business owner. I get a lot of fake calls from Google or from the IRS or other, organizations that reach out to business owners. And those are spoofed calls a lot of times. And a lot of times they're robocalls and they're scammers. And I know that, so I don't answer them. But it can still get your adrenaline up to be like, oh, the IRS is calling. But it's not really the IRS, right? So just be aware that just because your phone says it's somebody does not mean it is that person. Along with that, scammers are clever. They can take the logos from different organizations. They can make official looking letterhead. I have been tricked, unfortunately, twice by the same scammer, which makes me feel really, really dumb. But over a tax debt that I had in a certain state, they were really good at faking letters from the tax commission. And I called the number and I was like, hey, I thought I was on a payment plan. And then they hung up on me because they obviously weren't the tax commission, so they did not know that. And then eventually I got a hold of the real government organization and I sent them the copies of the letters and they did what they could to stop that from happening. But it's just, scammers are clever. You can't trust your phone when it says it's somebody. You can't trust even an official looking letter in a lot of cases. You'll want to, make sure that you're actually, I'm going to pause right there because the way I got duped by that letter, I want to make this really clear, is they had the letterhead, they had the address, they had everything that looked legit, except the phone number was a couple digits off. So it looked like a number I had called before, but it wasn't. And when I called the number in the letter, it led me to a scam center. So in that case, if I followed my own advice, which normally I do, but in this case, I was so stressed by this letter that I didn't take the time to pause and think. I shouldn't have called the number that was on the letter. I should have called the number that I knew belonged to that government agency, because even though it was only a couple digits off, that made all the difference. And along with that, websites are unfortunately easy to fake too, right? They can have, they can use like a different ending, like a, .net instead of a .com or whatever. And they can make it look very, very similar. So just always verify where you are online. Okay. Hopefully I've made all of this clear. I feel like I got off to a rough start today and I've kind of rambled a little bit, and I do apologize for that. I try to keep things focused and on point for you. Okay, we've already covered that. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, so this right here is the list of who you need to call if you are scammed and need help. So if it's a Social Security scam, you can report that to the SSA. The FTC also takes fraud reports. If it has to do with your Medicare benefits, you can call that 1-800-Medicare hotline and talk to somebody about it. AARP Fraud Watch is supposed to help seniors. If it's something that you received through the mail, like that letter that I got, you can report that to USPS. That's the United States Postal Service. If it's something that you encounter online, you can report it to the FBI at ic3.gov. And then, of course, if you're a senior, no matter what it is, you can always reach out to the Area Agency on Aging to report that. They usually run the Adult Protective Services departments, and they may be able to help you as well. So lots of resources out there to help you. And of course, this is that freebie we promised. Our sponsor, Chapter Medicare, is giving away their best-selling it's the best-selling book on Amazon about Medicare. It's called It's Not That Complicated, The 3 Medicare Decisions to Protect Your Health and Money. That book is valued at $10, but you can download it for free if you follow the link that you see on screen. That will also sign up for our email list. And we used to only send 1 email a week, but we have started doing daily videos now, which means we have a lot more information to send you guys. And I really feel like if I sent you 1 email a week with like 50 links in it, it would probably overwhelm a lot of people. So we're trying to do emails more frequently so that we don't overwhelm you with too much information every time. But that email list is absolutely the best way to make sure that you're not missing out on any of the information that we put together. So with that in mind, I do have somewhere that I have to be in pretty short order, but I am going to try to jump back into the chat here and catch up with you guys before I have to go. I probably only have 5, maybe 10 minutes absolute tops before I end up running super duper late for my next thing. So I'll try to see what we can get to. See, John says IRS scammers calling now. They are always calling, right? I had actually earlier today, I had my daughter sit down with my phone and go through my voicemail because it was full. And I had her delete all the spam voicemails that I had and all the different scam stuff. And it just blew her mind to see, I think I get 6 to 8 automatic robocall scam things a day. And they always leave voicemails, and it's so annoying. Yeah, so Jim says, someone tried that on Facebook acting like they know me, but I didn't know them. That is a really good point. I'm sure if you use Facebook, I would be stunned if any of you didn't know somebody who had their account hacked. It happens all the time. And there's a lot of different ways that happens. Sometimes it's by downloading bad apps on your phone, or, using the same password on Facebook that you maybe use on another service that's already been hacked and things like that. When someone ends up creating a new account and then they message me, because sometimes I know people forget their passwords, right? But more often than not, I try to ask a pointed question that only that person would know, right? Like, well, yeah, can you remind me how we met? Or, just something where if it's not that friend of mine, I'm going to pretty clearly know that it's not that person. Just throwing that out there in case that's useful to somebody. Texas Boomer has a long list of calls that they've received today. Oh man, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. There is, let me see if this is still a thing. There's a service that I've used in the past that lets me have a masked phone number. So it's like a temporary phone number that you can use when you sign up for a service or you claim a freebie. That's usually the worst, is when somebody's like, oh, we'll give you this for free. We just need your number and address. And then all of a sudden you're flooded with scam stuff. I don't do that, by the way. I never sell or information or anything, but But yeah, so I think it's Delete Me is the service that I use for that masked phone number. And I do have a sponsorship arrangement with them if anyone's interested. I don't expect any of you to ever sign up for that. I know it has a cost to it, but if you're interested in it, they are the ones who help me keep all of my information off the internet. They're, as you can imagine, I'm a YouTuber with 5 kids. So I take my privacy really seriously. And the service that I use actually goes out and it deletes my information anywhere that it shows up online. It deletes my phone number, my address, things like that. It's drastically cut down on the amount of scam contacts that I receive, but they also let you generate like masked phone numbers. I'm pretty sure they do like masked debit cards numbers too. So if you're buying something online from a service that you don't like 100% trust, you can kind of filter it through there to keep your information safe. I'll just drop that here in the chat for anyone who's interested because it is a really useful service. But like I said, I don't expect anybody to grab it if you're not interested, but it's been helpful to me. So let's see. Trying to catch up again. I lost my place when I went in to drop a comment. Yeah, American Ginger is not wrong. Once they find out that you're getting money, it doesn't matter where the money is coming from. Those scammers go right on it like a fly on poop. You are not wrong at all. It's really, really frustrating the way that some people do that. Let's see. Okay, I don't know what this warehouse seniors thing is, Hedge Hermit, but I am absolutely going to go research that as soon as I'm done with my next appointment because that sounds extremely interesting and terrifying, and it's probably going to give me nightmares. But Kimberly points out trickery is the goal of a scammer, and it absolutely is, right? They just want to trick you long enough to get what they want. I don't know how these people live. I would not be able to sleep at night. Like, it boggles the mind. Right? Like I have the hardest time even coming to you guys with sponsors sometimes because I never, ever, ever want to feel like I'm taking anything here. I always want to be giving help. And so I'm so picky about even the people I work with. I can't imagine ever, I just don't know how those people sleep at night. Right? It does not make sense to me. Thank you, Hedge Hermit. I appreciate that. I'm definitely genuine. I do wish that I was a little bit better in my presentation sometimes, but I do love you guys, and I'm glad that I'm here and that I'm able to bring information that hopefully is helpful to you all. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of you pointing out that there's been a lot of data sharing, and that is one. Not to get too political about it here, but there is a big movement in the government right now to break down what they're calling data silos. And that's when your information is over here, but it's also over here, and it's also over here, and those systems do not touch, and they don't talk to each other. Now, there is some merit in the idea of breaking that down, and I don't know exactly what the intentions are. I try not to scare people. I try not to hypothesize. I try to keep the stuff that we talk about here on the channel to be very factual about what's going on. For a long time, I've had the personal belief that, yeah, some of those data silos are actually really detrimental. Can you imagine how much more efficiently it would operate if when you applied for one program, it just kind of automatically gave you what you're eligible for, and you didn't have to jump through all this red tape and work with this bureaucracy and then this one and then this one and then back and forth and all of that chaos. Like there's got to be a way to streamline that so that it's easier. I'm not saying that's what they're doing because I kind of have my doubts, but but then also the more that you synchronize data and the less division you have between data, the bigger and more enticing that database becomes to the people who just want to take advantage of the information inside it, right? Because then instead of having to go here for your information and here for your information and here for your information and get different little pieces of it from each place, suddenly we're creating this massive repository where one data breach could put everything at risk. And that scares me to death because there are just so many people with nefarious intentions out there. Sorry, I feel like I rambled there for a minute. I do appreciate all of you being here with me. Okay, I love Jeff's answer here. Scammers ask me where I live, and I say Earth. That is perfect. I will be using that from now on. Thank you for that. That is brilliant. Yes, someone's talking about Medicaid being state by state. I feel like I must have missed a comment at some point about Medicaid. And so if you are in here and you asked a question about Medicaid, let me know, maybe drop that again so I can try to catch up because, yeah, it is definitely a state by state program. Oh, yeah, Google Voice. I also use Google Voice. It's great to have a Google Voice number. I have noticed though, because I have a Google Voice number for each one of the brands that I run. And then the marketing I do for clients and different things. And I've noticed a lot of services don't recognize Google Voice numbers as real numbers anymore. And every time I try to use one, it's like, well, enter a real number. And I'm like, but it is, but it doesn't work. So Delete Me has been kind of useful in that regard too, because I don't know what kind of data checking they're using to figure out that it's a Google Voice number and then not accept it. That has been really an irritation for me in the last couple of months. Um, Yeah. So American Ginger says I did that with Guardio. Yeah, it's really gross. It's not as bad now because Google made some changes to try to get more of those data scrapers off of the feeds. But for the longest time there, you could Google somebody's name and these data scraping websites would show up and be like, oh, here's everywhere you ever lived and every phone number you ever had and all the people that we know you're related to. And that is really, really creepy, right? That is really creepy. And in the early days of low income relief, we had a lot of people who would find my phone number and call me. And as much as I love you guys here on this channel, there was at one point in closer to 2020, the website was drawing like 3 million people a year. And then, of course, we had, hundreds of thousands of people here on YouTube as well. And there's only one of me. And so my phone was just ringing off the hook all the time. And that was really overwhelming. So Delete Me has been really, really good about helping me cut that down. And we haven't really had that issue since. So let's see. I did not see your moving comment, Kenneth. I am trying to find it, but it kind of jumps around a little bit when I type and whatnot. So if you can drop that again, I will try to circle back to whatever you asked me. I do appreciate you being on here with me. Let's see. Whoa. Pat says that there was an ad with me in it, and that is a little concerning because AI is an interesting tool, isn't it? I do use AI in my work for a couple of different things, especially in the work that I do for clients when I'm doing marketing for like a construction company or something that I don't really understand a lot of on my own. But there is definitely a hazard to AI in that those of us who do create content for a living are at risk of having our voices and our faces taken to do other things. So if you did see an ad that I was in, I haven't been doing any ads. So please let me know if that's something that you see, because that's very concerning. Let's see. Oh, cool. Thank you, Deb, for jumping in there and helping Kenneth get that answered. I appreciate that. Yeah, Blue Cavalry says don't give DNA to anyone, and I agree with that too. Like I'm so afraid of DNA test kits just because of data reasons. But that's my paranoia, and that's not something I usually say on this channel. So I should stop rambling on that point. It's hard because I'm a person too, but I try to make sure low income relief doesn't always veer into my personal opinions. Oh, that's hard. Texas Boomer says, when I was working collections, you're paid a monthly fee to track people down, next of kins, phones, etc. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, and Lisa is suggesting that if you get scam calls, hang up and block the number. That does unfortunately only go so far because the scammers that call me on the daily, they just get new numbers. I swear, like the churn is insane. I block every single one, and then it just keeps happening. So definitely block them, but never fall under the assumption that you successfully blocked all of them because they're very inventive. And hopefully that's actually a good place for us to wrap up on, because I am super late for where I'm supposed to be. But there's always going to be scammers. There's not a lot that any safeguards that are built to stop a scammer are always going to be reactive in nature, right? Somebody finds a way through and then we try to patch it and we stop it, and they find another way through. And that's hard because there's so many scammers out there, and the tools that they use are so relentless that the best defense to keep yourself, your benefits, your family, your everything safe are knowing what to watch for, right? And being your own best advocate. So not giving into that pressure, never sending money in those unsecured ways, being very wary about who you're talking to, taking steps to make sure that you're doing what you think you're doing, reaching out to other people, getting the opinions of trusted third parties. Those are security measures that you can implement on your own for yourself to keep yourself safe. And that's going to be way more effective than what your internet filter can do or what your, virus checker can do or any of that, because you really, um, they only have to find one breach, right, to be able to get in and get that information. So being aware is your best defense. And I hope that was the main takeaway of the video that we've done here today. Now, yes, American Ginger says she was about to use the word relentless, and 100% that is the right word. They are relentless. And from their perspective, a very valid reason. Scammers bilked $100 billion out of Medicare in a year. They got $3 billion from seniors in a single year alone. So they're relentless because it works. So stay safe. Help others stay safe. Share this video if it's useful. If I rambled too much, feel free to summarize what I said. Just stay safe out there. And if you ever have any questions, concerns, if you see a new scam that you're worried about, if you're looking for help with something and you don't know where to turn, feel free to reach out to us. My assistant's email address is tips@lowincomerelief.com. And she does her best to answer based on what she knows. And if she doesn't know, she can reach out to me. But we're here to help you guys. We care about you a great deal. Thank you for being with me today and for putting up with that blip at the beginning when I was missing that slide. I'm still a little traumatized by that. I hate messing up on these videos with you guys, but I appreciate you. We'll be back again tomorrow.